I never imagined that a simple Sunday barbecue would become the day that would change my family forever. If you've ever had that intuition that something was wrong, but everyone said you were crazy, this video is for you. Before I continue, I want to warn you. What happened that day was so intense that my own parents haven't spoken to me for 3 months. And if you stay until the end, you'll understand exactly why this revelation destroyed our family. Hey everyone. For those who are new here, my name is Alex. Normally my videos are about travel and lifestyle, but today I need to share something different. Family has always been sacred to me. I grew up believing we were united, that we could trust each other. My sister Sarah and I were always close, and when she started dating Mike 5 years ago, I was happy for her. They seemed perfect together. 2 years ago, they got married. It was the happiest day of her life. Or at least, that's what we all thought. Before I tell you how I discovered the affair, I need to explain something that will make you question everything you know about trust. If you've ever been cheated on or are afraid of being cheated on, pay attention to the signs I ignored for months. The third sign is what most people never notice until it's too late. It all started about 6 months ago. Mike began acting strangely. He would cancel plans at the last minute, was always on his phone, would leave to work late. The classics, right? But I didn't want to believe it. Mike was practically family. He and Sarah seemed so happy on social media. The first sign I noticed was when we were all together at dinner and his phone wouldn't stop vibrating. He would turn it face down every time. Sarah asked who it was, and he said, "Just work." It was Sunday night. The second sign came when Sarah casually mentioned that Mike had started going to the gym at 5 a.m. Mike, the guy I had known for years who hated waking up early. Suddenly, he was the first one at the gym? Something didn't make sense. But the third sign, the one that really made me certain, was when I caught Mike in a lie about where he'd been on a Friday afternoon. He said he was in a work meeting, but I saw him leaving a restaurant with a woman. They didn't see me, but I saw the way he touched her. It wasn't a professional touch. If you're enjoying this content, it helps me a lot if you leave a like right now. This helps the algorithm show this story to more people who might be going through the same situation. I need to go back in time a bit for you to better understand our family dynamics. Sarah was always the perfect daughter. Excellent grades in school, prestigious college, successful career as a lawyer. I, on the other hand, was always the rebel. I dropped out of college to travel the world, work as a freelancer, live a life my parents consider unstable. When Sarah met Mike, it was as if she had completed our parents' wish list. He was a doctor, came from a good family, had solid plans for the future. Their wedding was the event of the year in our town. 300 guests, designer dress, honeymoon, in Europe. Too perfect to be true, as I later discovered. I decided to investigate more before making any accusations. I started paying attention to everything. The messages he received when we were together, the hours he claimed to be working, the excuses to go out alone. One night, about 4 months ago, Sarah called me crying. She had found a receipt for a luxury hotel in the pocket of Mike's jacket. A hotel in the same city where they lived. When she confronted Mike, he said he had booked the room for a colleague who was having marriage problems and needed a place to stay. Sarah wanted to believe him, but something didn't seem right. That's when I started investigating more deeply. I created a fake profile on social media and added Mike. To my surprise, he accepted almost immediately. I started exchanging messages with him, posing as an interested woman. In less than 3 days, he was already suggesting a meeting. I was disgusted, but I needed more evidence. I arranged to meet him at a cafe, but obviously didn't show up. I stayed across the street, photographing him waiting, checking his watch, clearly anxious to meet another woman who wasn't my sister. And then, I got the definitive proof I needed. Mike forgot to disconnect his iCloud account from the old iPad he had given me. Messages started appearing. Messages with someone named Jessica. They weren't just text messages. They were photos, videos, plans to meet. It had been going on for more than a year. What shocked me most were the messages where he talked about Sarah. He told Jessica that his marriage was just for convenience, that he had never really loved my sister, that he was with her for the social status and the connection with her family. Reading that broke my heart. How could someone be so cruel? I also discovered that Jessica wasn't the only one. There were at least 3 other women with whom he maintained regular contact. One of them was the head nurse at the hospital where he worked. Another was, believe it or not, the couple's therapist he and Sarah had consulted when they had a crisis the previous year. The third was an ex-girlfriend from college with whom he had never really broken up. I was devastated. How could I tell this to my sister? How could I show her that the man she loved was living a double life? I decided I needed more evidence, something Mike couldn't deny. So, I started following his steps. I discovered that he and Jessica met at a specific hotel every Thursday. They even had a preferred room. On one of those Thursdays, I made an impulsive decision. I went to the hotel and bribed an employee to let me into the room before they arrived. I installed a small camera, legal in our state for collecting evidence of infidelity, and left. What I recorded that afternoon was more than enough to prove the affair. But it also captured something that alarmed me even more. In the video after the meeting, Mike was on the phone discussing money with someone. A lot of money. He mentioned something about diverting funds from the hospital and using the joint account with Sarah to launder the money. This went beyond cheating. It seemed to be something criminal. Now, before I continue with what happened at the barbecue, I need you to understand the weight of what I was carrying. If you've ever had to be the bearer of bad news to someone you love, leave in the comments what your experience was like. I really needed that support at that moment. I tried to talk to Sarah several times, but she was always busy with work or with some social event that Mike had organized. Ironic how he tried so hard to appear the perfect husband in public while living a completely different life in the shadows. A week before the barbecue, Sarah called me excited. She and Mike had big news to share with the family. My heart sank. I knew what it probably was, a baby. The idea of my sister having a child with a man who was cheating on her and possibly involved in criminal activities made me sick. It was at that moment that I decided I couldn't wait any longer. My father's birthday barbecue would be the perfect time. The whole family would be gathered, and I would have witnesses to support me when Mike inevitably tried to deny everything. The night before the barbecue, I received an anonymous message. Leave Mike alone, or you'll regret it. Someone knew I was investigating. This only increased my determination. The big day arrived. It was my father's birthday, and the whole family would be gathered for a barbecue in the backyard. Mike and Sarah arrived together, smiling, holding hands. Seeing that scene, knowing what I knew was like taking a punch to the stomach. Sarah was radiant, wearing a loose dress that made my heart tighten even more. Was she really pregnant? Mike circulated among the guests as if he were the host, charming and attentive as always. My parents adored him. He always brought expensive gifts, paid for dinners at exclusive restaurants, treated them like royalty. Throughout the afternoon, I observed Mike checking his phone secretly, smiling at messages that certainly weren't from work. Sarah was busy helping my mother, completely oblivious to what was happening. My father gave an emotional speech about family, about how blessed he was to have wonderful children and a son-in-law who was more like a son. Each word was like a knife in my chest. The hypocrisy of it all was suffocating me. I had planned to talk to Sarah privately after the barbecue, but then something happened that changed everything. Jessica, the main mistress, appeared at our gate. Apparently, Mike had told her he would be working that day, but she discovered the lie and decided to confront him. She didn't know he would be with the whole family. I later found out that she had followed the GPS of his car, suspecting he was with another woman. The irony didn't escape me. The silence that fell over the backyard when she shouted his name was deafening. Mike turned white as a sheet. Sarah looked confused, first at him, then at the unknown woman at the gate. "Who is she, Mike?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. Before he could answer, Jessica shouted, "I'm the woman he's been sleeping with for the last 14 months. The woman he tells he's going to leave you for as soon as he can secure his share of your family's inheritance." Backyard exploded into chaos. Sarah staggered backward as if she had been slapped. My mother dropped the dessert tray she was holding. My father, always so composed, looked like he was about to jump on Mike's neck. Mike tried to deny it, of course. He said Jessica was crazy, that she was obsessed with him, that nothing had happened. That's when I decided it was time to reveal what I knew. "Sarah," I said, my voice firmer than I expected. "For weeks I've been trying to find a way to tell you. Mike is cheating on you. I have proof." I showed her the messages, the photos, everything I had collected. I hesitated to show the hotel video. That was too much for a public moment. The expression on her face changed from shock to pain, and then to an anger I had never seen before. Knew about this for weeks and didn't tell me?" she shouted at me, tears streaming down her face. "You let me play the fool all this time?" Before I could explain, Mike saw his chance. "Sarah, he's always been jealous of us. He's always wanted to separate us. These proofs are fabricated." That's when Jessica, still at the gate, shouted, "Fabricated? And me, Mike? Am I fabricated too? And what about our weekend in Vegas? And the ring you gave me? The same model you gave Sarah, just with a bigger diamond?" What happened next was pure chaos. Sarah threw her drink in Mike's face. My father, always protective, lunged at him. My mother tried to calm everyone down, while Jessica continued shouting at the gate. Mike, cornered, finally confessed. Not only was he cheating on Sarah with Jessica, but there were other women too. He begged for forgiveness, said he had a problem, that he needed help. It was then that Sarah made the announcement that froze my blood. "I'm 2 months pregnant, you bastard." The news that should have been a moment of joy became the last straw. Mike seemed genuinely surprised. Maybe he didn't know, or maybe it was just another one of his acts. Sarah, through tears, turned to me. "How long have you known about this?" looking directly at me. I told the truth. That I had discovered it a few weeks ago. That I was gathering evidence. That I wanted to be sure before destroying her marriage. That's when things got even worse. My parents were furious with me for not telling them sooner. Sarah accused me of waiting too long, of allowing her to continue being humiliated. Mike, seeing a chance to divert attention, began accusing me of being jealous of their relationship. You don't understand, I tried to explain. It's not just the cheating. He's involved in something illegal at the hospital. He's using the joint account with Sarah to launder money. This accusation made everyone stop. Mike turned even paler. He's crazy, Mike said, but his voice trembled. Completely paranoid. That's when Mike's brother David, who had been quiet until then, spoke up. Mike, enough lies. I warned you this would blow up in your face. David turned to my family. He's been diverting medications from the hospital for over a year. I found out and have been trying to convince him to stop. The barbecue ended with Sarah leaving in tears, Mike being kicked out of the house, and me being accused of ruining everything. No one seemed to notice that the real culprit was Mike, the man who had repeatedly cheated on my sister and possibly put her career and freedom at risk. In the weeks that followed, things only got worse. Sarah filed for divorce, but instead of leaning on family, she completely withdrew. We discovered that Mike had emptied their joint account one day after the barbecue. He took almost all of Sarah's savings. The hospital where Mike worked opened. An internal investigation after an anonymous tip. Yes, it was me. He was temporarily removed while they investigated the disappearance of controlled medications. My parents, instead of supporting Sarah's decision, began suggesting that she should forgive Mike, give the marriage a second chance, for the babies. They were more concerned with the social scandal than with their own daughter's well-being. The situation became even more complicated when Jessica showed up at my parents' house a week later, crying and begging to speak with Sarah. She was pregnant too, 3 months along. Mike would be the father of 2 babies, with 2 different women, just 1 month apart. Sarah, devastated, isolated herself completely. She took leave from work and went to a retreat in the countryside. She sent me a single message before leaving. You were right, but that doesn't mean I'm ready to forgive you for not telling me sooner. And me? I became the villain of the story, the brother who destroyed the perfect family. No one seemed to remember that I had only revealed the truth, not created it. 3 months have passed since that day. Sarah and I barely speak, although she has started sending me occasional messages about the baby. She decided to keep the pregnancy despite everything. My parents treat me coldly, as if I had been the betrayer. Mike, ironically, is still invited to family events because he's trying to change, and he's the father of their grandchild. The hospital investigation continues, but he got an expensive lawyer who is doing everything to cover up the case. Jessica disappeared after supposedly receiving a large sum of money. The other women Mike was involved with never appeared. He probably bought their silence too. The most surreal part? I recently discovered that Mike is dating Sarah's best friend, Amanda, the same one who consoled her throughout the divorce process. Apparently, this relationship was already happening in parallel with the others. The betrayal seems endless. I learned the hard way that sometimes people prefer to live in a lie rather than face the painful truth. That the messenger is often punished, more severely than the true culprit. Sarah is slowly rebuilding her life. She sold the house she shared with Mike and bought a smaller apartment near her parents. She's focused on her career and the arrival of the baby. She recently told me that she did a prenatal DNA test. The baby is really Mike's, which makes everything even more complicated. As for me, I decided to distance myself for a while. I'm traveling around the country trying to process everything. That happened. This is the first time I've spoken publicly about it, and honestly, it's therapeutic. If you're watching this and identified with my story, I want you to know that you're not alone. The truth has a price, but living in a lie costs even more. If you've been through something similar, share your experience in the comments. How did you handle the situation? What would you do differently? Your advice might help someone going through the same thing right now, and if this video helped you in any way, subscribe to the channel. I promise to continue sharing real stories that can help us navigate through the difficult moments in life. Sometimes knowing we're not alone is the first step toward healing. Oh, and one last revelation I discovered yesterday. The money Mike was diverting, it wasn't just to support his luxurious lifestyle with his mistresses. He had enormous gambling debts. Apparently, our perfect doctor had a gambling addiction that no one knew about. The truth always finds a way to come to light, no matter how long it takes. Thank you for watching until the end. Sometimes doing the right thing means being alone for a while, but the truth always finds its way. See you in the next video.